What's going on, guys? I really appreciate you guys watching. We have a great podcast today. Matt Porcaro, hopefully I didn't butcher that this time, the 203K Way. Great podcast. He outlines how investors, especially newbie investors, can utilize the FHA 203K renovation loan product to be able to do fix and flips almost guided by the government with training wheels, as he describes. But you're going to have to check it out and see. Matt Porcaro, the 203K Way. Check it out. Yeah, kid. Welcome back to another episode of the Handsome Homebuyer Podcast. My name is Charles, a.k.a. the Handsome Homebuyer, a.k.a. Captain Permit, a.k.a. with the fuck... What did I say your hair was? Effortlessly disheveled?
Yeah, something like that.
Yes. Hair?
Stylish.
El judío maravilloso.
That's what I'm talking about. Do you know who is also effortlessly... What am I looking for? What's going to make this sound good? Effortlessly awesome? Fuck it. It doesn't matter. We know where we're going with this. Where are we going with this? Captain Permit. 516-513-8838. If you need plans, permits, anything permit related, the towns are a fucking nightmare. You know that, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's a fucking nightmare.
I actually made a recommendation to your company.
I appreciate
We'll talk more about that later.
I love that. I appreciate that. It is a nightmare. I actually put out a video that's going to be coming out next week, which is basically being an expediter sucks, because I just want everybody to understand how it's a thankless job. It's probably the most thankless job there is. If you do a good job, nobody's like, oh, thank you, but they just scream at you from the moment you start dealing with them until the moment.
Yeah, they don't know what you're going through. They don't know what you're going through. They don't know the level that it takes, and they expect that they're paying for it, that everything's just supposed to like be effortless.
The towns are a nightmare, bro.
Yeah, well,
It's getting worse by the minute.
lovely New York.
But where is I going with this? Oh, Captain Permit. 516-513-8838. Obviously, I'm the Handsome Homebuyer. Houses that smell like cat pee, land, commercial property, non-performing notes, development deals, gas stations. I don't care. I'm quick, I'm easy. Lord knows I'm a good time. I want to buy it. 516-777 sold. All right, good podcast today. This is going to be a good one.
Yeah, man.
I got a feeling.
Let's do it.
We've never met before. We connected. Is that how we? Well, you were kind of introduced through me through social media, which is amazing.
Yeah.
By our good friend, God rest him.
Yes, Rick Jarman. God bless. Rest in peace. Good dude.
Very
Genuine.
nice guy. Did a podcast with him probably about, was it a year ago? Has he been on a year?
Yeah.
Right? How nuts is
He
that?
passed away from COVID, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I feel like it was like more towards like the tail end-ish of COVID.
Yeah.
And I was watching videos of him. For those of you who don't know him, I had a podcast with him. Very interesting guy.
Check it out. It's a great podcast.
Very giving, loving guy. Alabama, 100-plus unit rental portfolio, plus did flips, really took care of his whole family, just educated a ton of people.
Yep.
Just awesome. How did you meet him?
Through Instagram.
No shit.
Also, yeah.
And then he just started had a
He
friend.
saw what I was doing, was loving it. I saw what he was doing, loving it. He sent me a message one day, sent me a voice message. That was his thing. He's like, hey, I'm not here to sell you anything. I just want to talk real estate. And we used to jump on the phone and just talk. And
the voice text.
Yeah,
I love the voice text.
Yeah, man. He was great at it, and man, I miss him a lot. I really do. He was a good dude. But yeah, that's how we connected. It's a good way to connect, and he helped a lot of people. I don't think he realizes how many people he helped.
He had a lot of people were following him. They loved him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. How can you not love that level of genuineness?
Yeah.
And
I wish I had the accent.
Oh, he's got the good drawl,
The accent
man.
was dope.
Yeah,
It was.
I know. It was very cool. And his like one-liners, his like southern one-liners, and you gotta always pay the fiddler, and like I don't know, just whatever he always had.
You guys were really close, huh?
I mean, close enough. Yeah,
you're visibly moved and upset.
Yeah.
By this.
Dude, I was crushed. I was absolutely crushed. One of the guys that is in my community sent me a text message, and I just remember like kind of like dropping the phone and being like, "What?" I just remember he just like made a post like he had just texted me like a couple days before. And
did you ever meet him in person or not?
No. I met him pretty much right during COVID and the beginning of COVID.
The internet's so crazy, bro. Social media's so crazy.
It is, but. That's why we're here, right? So it's cool.
It's dope that we connected. So you're doing something that is awesome, and like we were saying before, my opinion of this was just like, oh, it's a nightmare. Whenever people would come to me and say like, and I never looked at it from the standpoint of what you're teaching, and how you're investing and all that. But just from like buddies of mine who are like, oh, like I want to buy this crappy house. I'm like, you can get a 2 or 3K loan, but like it's a fucking nightmare, and like they never close. But you have basically like perfected the art of like house hacking meets BRRRR meets 203K loan.
Yep. Yeah. Just live and flip, buy and hold, house hack. You can wrap everything into one if you really leverage this thing. And yeah, that's what I coined, and I coined it the 203K way, because I wanted to get into real estate investing so bad for years. And here on Long Island, it was a struggle. It was challenging. And the 203K is the way that I got started in real estate investing. It gave me that first deal that gave me the confidence to go and do more. It built me cash flow, built me equity, and ultimately is the reason why I'm an investor today. So
for the people out there that don't know what a 2 or 3K loan is, break it down. Like what exactly is a 2 or 3K loan? How does it function?
Sure. So a 203K loan is a renovation loan, right? So these renovation loans, they enable you to buy the house and wrap the renovation costs into the loan, right? So now FHA seems like a bad word these days. With the current housing market, if you say FHA, like realtors get squeamish. But FHA does have that. They wrote this loan years ago, and really the point behind it was to get people give people the ability to get into these fixer upper properties. Average homeowners that were looking to maybe get into a house like in any of these zombie houses and stuff like that, go in and really give fighting chances to people that maybe aren't cash buyers and didn't have the opportunity to buy these as-is properties that are typically only available to cash buyers, right? You can't do conventional financing. Banks won't approve it.
Yeah.
So the program, the beauty of the program is that it allows you to wrap the renovation costs into your mortgage amount, right?
What's going on, guys? So sorry to interrupt this podcast. If you haven't already, you need to join my text platform, 516-871-3511. I'm sharing all my tips and tricks. People are doing deals in there. It's a great free resource. Don't miss it. 516-871-3511. Now back to the podcast.
You can also get you only need 3.5% down, right? Yeah. It's an FHA loan, right? So little out of pocket, you're able to wrap the renovation costs into the loan, and now you're also able to buy as-is properties, foreclosed properties, short sales, all the properties that, again, traditionally are only really going to cash buyers, because cash buyers can buy as is. Like it's the misconception people have. It's like, people, I have people all the time that are like looking at properties and it says cash sale only in the MLS, but they still are able to get it with a 203K loan. You just have to kind of talk to the realtor about it. But what's good about it is oftentimes you could pay more than cash investors because you're using an FHA loan, which is low down payment, low interest rates, and it's owner occupied. That's the caveat to this whole thing. The 203K loan is an owner occupant loan, just like the FHA requires. So you have to be there, you have to occupy it for a year. But what I did was I house hacked with it. I built equity. I did a live-in flip on a duplex property. So I house hacked it, lived in one unit, rented out the other, was there for a short time.
Oh, no kidding. So you did it in a multifamily?
Yeah, I did it in a short time, built some equity. Just to do quick numbers on my first deal, I bought it right here in Farmingdale.
In the village?
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. It was literally a crack house, ugliest house on Long Island, but it was the only thing I could afford because I was single income and I still really couldn't qualify. I actually was able to qualify the future rental income, right? So when you buy a multifamily with FHA, you're able to factor in what your future income on those other units is going to be, and it helps you get a higher loan amount, right? So I couldn't qualify on my own, but with that other unit rented out for at the time, $2,200 a month, I was able to qualify for the full $350K, which I needed, which was...
How long ago was this?
So this was back in 2016. So, $270 purchase price, literal crack house. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you saw pictures, it was
cheap.
Awful.
For a two-family?
Yeah, well, you got to see where it is and everything and the condition it was in. I mean, it was falling down, man. It was bad shape. Put $100,000 into it. All in, pretty much all in for $350 when we were done.
Did you get the deal? Was it listed on MLS?
Yeah, it was so one cool thing about the 203K loan and these renovation loans. The 203K loan is kind of like the Kleenex of the renovation loan market. There's multiple kinds. There's the home style. There's the choice renovation. Freddie Mac has a loan.
Really?
Fannie Mae has a loan. Yeah, they all. Cool. Oh yeah. So 203K. When I say the 203K way, like I have people that do the home style. I have people that do the choice
What's the
renovation.
Difference?
So generally speaking, FHA is. I think talk about the benefits. FHA is the best for multifamily because it's 3.5% down no matter how many units you get, up to 4 units.
Got it.
Home style changes based on the amount of units that you add, right?
Okay.
So it's 3% down, which is 3% down conventional Fannie Mae, right? So 3% down first time home buyer you can get. So it's actually less down payment, but you need a higher credit score, and that's only for single family. If you go up to 2 family, it jumps up to like I think 10%, and then 3 to 4 unit is looking at 20 to 25% down.
You can't go high. It has to be a residential property, so it can't go above 4 units.
Correct. So that's really the big one. Home styles are good if you have a little bit of a better credit score, if you're doing a single family, like a live-in flip type scenario. One cool thing also about home style that a lot of people don't know is you're allowed to buy non-owner occupied. You have to say non-owner occupied. You can't say investment, because once you say investment, they don't let it go through.
Well, what's the difference? There is no difference.
I mean, there is no difference.
Okay,
you
got it.
You could call it your second home or your, vacation home.
This program is called Home Style.
Fannie Mae Home Style. It's a Fannie Mae program.
Fannie Mae Home Style. This is,
and that allows you.
This one's 10% down.
So the non-owner occupied Fannie Mae single family.
Yeah.
You can 15% down minimum.
Okay.
And I mean, you're paying still Fannie Mae interest rates like 4-5%.
That's still awesome.
It's like better than hard money. Yeah.
Wow.
The difference is it's not as fast as hard money, right? But again, so the whole premise of this whole thing is like, what I did when I first started looking into this was I knew I tried to break into real estate investing for years.
What did you do before this?
What do you mean, like for work or just? I mean, I still work full time. I still have I still have a full time gig. I'm an electrical engineer for a very large company, and this was always going to be a side thing for me. It's become more of a main thing for me.
But this is like, when you're talking about this before and as we talk about it, I'm like, this could be huge.
Oh yeah.
Like you could have a crazy following and teach a ton of people how to do this.
Well, you know what happened was when I first broke into this, right? So I had a bunch of different mentorships. I tried a bunch of different programs, tried wholesaling, tried a bunch of things. I couldn't crack it. I just couldn't, but I never lost faith in real estate, just never. And I had one woman, you might know her, Melissa from Long Island RIA.
I've heard of her, yeah.
Yeah, so she heads the Long Island RIA. She's an all-star, mom of a lot of kids. And just
like, I heard you tell like 11
She's got a ton of kids, and she does everything. She's like one of those people, it's like, how the hell do you do this?
How do you do
But she's awesome, and I put her to the side one day, and I asked her, I was like, if you could just do that, like, I've been trying everything. I'm like, if you were in my position, I was like 24, 25 at the time. I was like, I got a couple grand in the bank, nothing crazy, maybe like 10 grand in the bank.
How old are you now?
I'm 31 now.
Nice.
So, I'm like, what would you do if you could just go back and do this over? She's like, I'd use something called a 203K loan. I've never used it before, but if you leverage it, buy a house, buy a foreclosure, buy something, that needs work,
and that was
renovate it, live in the freaking basement, rent out the upstairs, have it pay for itself, build equity, use the equity, and go buy another house and just do that.
And that was the moment.
So I went home, I Google 203K loans, and I get what you talk about. 203K loans, they're a pain in the ass, they're a nightmare, they're not worth it. And then, like, no information on it. Like, again, the other thing is, too, is, like, this loan could, like, Harry and Sally can go get it to, like, buy a house and renovate the kitchen to their liking. Like, it doesn't need to be a as-is dilapidated piece of shit house.
Yeah.
But what I looked at it is if I look at this loan through the eyes of an investor, like, all the stuff that I've been learning, like, acquisition costs 60 to 70% on the dollar, renovate to this and build some equity in it, like, this could be a home run because the cost of money is so low and it's so little out of pocket that your return is going to be massive. So that's what I did. And I looked at it through that lens, and I looked around and I couldn't get any information on it. Lo and behold, I was building up a little bit more of a nest egg. I put it on the back burner. I actually didn't do anything with it because I went on Google and I just got pissed off. Lo and behold, I fast forward a couple months. I called the one mortgage officer that I know, my family friend EJ, and he's from here on Long Island, and he's like fast talker, Long Island guy, and he's like, I would call him. I was like, you know anything about these 203K loans? He's like, yeah, dude, we're gonna get you set up. Like, you'll crush it with that loan. Let's get you set up, dude. Before, like, I called. It was a very innocent phone call. Next thing I know, I'm giving him my social, my tax returns, everything. Before I know it. Oh yeah. Well, listen,
He's a savage.
Now it's funny because now he's a family friend, and I honestly think if he wasn't a family friend, I would have never. Sometimes I wonder if I would have ever done it. Mm-hmm. Just because he was a family friend, and I had that little extra trust. I got it, and it set the wheels in motion. Like, I finally was taking action on something. I had this pre-approval, and now I'm like, all right, well, now I got to start shopping for deals, and I did. And I was a little bit prior, but I was like looking and looking. So what I wanted to get to before, I know we keep bumping around a little bit, but what I was getting to before is, so with my house that I bought, right, it was something called a Fannie Mae. It was called a. I'm sorry, I forget the name of the website. I can't believe I'm blanking on
Homestead.
it. Yeah,
HomePath.
HomePath. So it's that first look period.
Yeah.
So first look period houses, foreclosures are owner occupied only, are allowed to bid on the houses.
Yeah.
So I was just keeping an eye on that, and was taking some time, and before I knew it, a bunch of things came up, and I was looking at houses, couldn't find any. The thing is like I was still, even back then, I was still like not able to qualify for anything. I was single guy, not single, but not married yet.
Yeah.
So just qualifying on my own income, and I could on Long Island, I can't really afford shit. So I was looking for anything and everything, and finally I found like the ugliest house they had on the HomePath. The upside was it was duplex. So I was able to, I still probably couldn't qualify for it because with the renovation cost, I wouldn't have been able to qualify. But when I found out, I kind of found out about house hacking accidentally, and kind of all this like the forecasting of future income accidentally. So before I knew it, I was in contract. Like I placed a bunch of offers. We were back and forth with the bank and dealing with banks. I was intimidating. They like tell you like, basically like whenever you deal with banks, it's like you should be grateful that the bank even entertained you, like, and you're just like bowing down, and they're just like telling you all these ultimatums, and if you like you don't close in 45 days, we're backing out, and we're gonna go ahead and take your earnest money, blah blah blah. Took me 4.5 months to close. One of the things that you said
did they have title issues? Is that why?
I had issues with all my financing. Well, okay, so number one, right?
Okay.
203K loans.
Yeah.
What's the biggest issue with 203K loans? 99.9% of lenders don't know anything about them.
Yes.
Okay. So what is a lender going to do? Nothing against lenders. Love you guys. But they're going to, when you come in there asking for a 203K loan, they'll be like, no fucking way. We're going to do this. We're going to do something. Because they don't know it. So they're just going to pull you somewhere else, which isn't always a bad thing. But the thing is if like you follow it the way that I kind of did it, like you have like use it this way. And the good thing is there are guys that do these. There's guys that specialize in these, and I learned that later. EJ, love him to death, probably wouldn't have done it without him. He had no fucking idea what he was doing. It's funny, he's done a ton since, and he does a lot now, but he had never done it before. So I was finding that out very quickly throughout this process that like they had no idea what they were doing. Their back office had no idea what they were doing. Their renovation department, I mean, it was just like pissing in the wind. There was no rhyme or reason to any of it. And it actually came to the point, EJ and his brother worked together for this one brokerage. They had a falling out in the middle of his brother, who's the broker, had the falling out with the partner. He got fired from the brokerage like 2 weeks before my closing date.
Nice.
And they gave it to someone else. It came to the point where they were threatening. It was 4 months at this point, 4.5 months, whatever. It came to the point where he had to like go in and plead with the owner to get the loan through because they like weren't given the clear to close. Thank God they did do a clear to close, and I got the house. But yeah, the biggest issue people have is not having a good lender. And if you have the right lender, and there's ways to find these guys. I mean, I talk about it all the time on my Instagram, everything like that. I mean, one of the main things is like there's 203K HUD consultants in every market. Mm-hmm. They're like inspectors basically that get an extra certification to be a HUD 203K consultant.
Well, how about this so people understand?
Yeah.
And I would love to understand. I think I know some of it, but I definitely don't know all of it. What is the process that you have to go through to get a 203K loan? Like what kind of docs are needed?
Sure.
As opposed to, how long does it take as opposed to like a regular FHA loan?
So So the added level of complexity to a 203K or home style or any renovation loan is that you are basically you're estimating what the cost of the renovation is going to be. You're getting contractor quotes on what you're getting, a contractor contract. You're putting that in, and that money plus a 10% contingency is being put in escrow, and that's being drawn down from. Kind of similar to a hard money situation, right? So that's the added level of complexity, right? Now, banks sometimes aren't equipped for it. Again, that's why it's so important to work with a lender who does renovation loans. There's guys out there that this is their niche. This is what they do. This is their little corner of the market, right? I know a lot of them now at this point because I've networked with so many. But, that's the added level. So really what you have to do is you go in with a 203K loan specifically, a HUD consultant or a 203K consultant needs to come in. They're basically like what I like to call the referee. Okay. They're a referee of the process. They come in, they make sure that your scope of work makes sense. Okay. They make sure that they build you out a line item scope of work. It's called an SOR. Okay. And really what that does is that enables
scope of renovation?
It's like schedule of repairs, I think they call it. But it's a line item scope of work, basically very detailed, and it goes into every little thing that needs to be done on the property, not only to get it up to code compliance, FHA compliance, everything like that, but also whatever you want to do with the property, right? So it's kind of like objective, right? It makes like one awesome way to do this is like I call the 203K loan flipping a house on training wheels, right? Because they kind of force you to do all these things that
that's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
do you have any of those sheets that the banks give you, the scope of work sheets that they cost you?
Yeah, for
sure.
Can
you send me one of those?
Yeah, for sure.
I want to see.
Of course. I give you an example. So like one of the best ways to do this is once you get into contract with a property, right? You bring the HUD consultant in, 203K consultant, right?
How do you find this person?
So it's like
you have to hire them separately?
It's like a lawyer if you get arrested.
Okay.
Like they say, like the state will either give you, like you either have your own lawyer or you will be one provided for you. Okay. You can have your own. Okay. Or you can get one from the bank. Now here's the thing: if the bank is doing a ton of 203Ks in your market, there's a lot of ways to do it. Quick little 60-second hack for anyone watching. If you want to find the best 203K lenders in your market, the most active ones, you Google 203K endorsement summary. First link that comes up, it's the HUD website. It gives, you scroll down to the bottom, you go to the most recent month and year, okay? Since it's public information, it's FHA, they let you know every brokerage in every market and how many 203K loans they've done this month, this quarter, and this year. So now you go to your market, you look up, you see which brokerage, you call them up, you just ask them who's heading your renovation department. You know they're doing them. You can see it right there. You can see how many they've done, and you just ask who's heading up their renovation department and work with them. Now, here's the thing. Whoever's doing the most in your market is also probably going to know who the good 203K consultants are because they're not going to work. It's like anything else. Talent hangs out with talent, right? So, it's like kind of a reverse hack way of doing it, right? So you find these 203K consultants, and then a good one is going to know, they're going to know schedule of values in the area, because part of that SOR is they're supposed to give an estimate on what they think it's going to cost based on the market and based on
how good are these people? Like they know their shit?
It depends. It's like anywhere else, right?
How do they get paid?
So HUD consultants get a flat fee, right? Okay. So it ranges from $400 to $1,000 flat fee. Okay. So they get $400 up front, and then they usually put in a $200 like for every time you have to bring them out for a draw, it's $200, I believe. Don't quote me on that. Something like that, $150. It's all wrappable into the loan, right?
Got it.
So you can actually forecast that and get paid back in closing. Everything's wrappable into the loan, all those costs. You shell it out, but you can get credited back on the closing. So anyway, real quick, what you do is they create this scope of work basically for you, right? They help you create a scope of work, whatever your vision is for the property, plus everything that needs to get done, because they're usually always home inspectors, right? They're usually always qualified home inspectors. That's pretty much one of the qualifications that you need to be 2 or 3K certified, right? So they usually have a good idea on everything. Again, like anywhere else, make sure you get a guy that's experienced, says they've done a bunch of these, stuff like that. But they'll create this scope of work. Now what you can do is if you have a couple contractors lined up, you could shop out this scope of work, and usually they'll give you a blanked out. The way the 203K wants to see it is they want to see line item, labor, materials, total, and all the way down the list, right? So you can just give the contractor the scope of work and say fill in the line items, right?
Got it.
It's a great way to level bids. You know, I got brought up in construction. I still work in the construction industry, so it's like it's leveling the bids is like a huge thing. A lot of people don't realize that they're not comparing apples to apples. You know, sometimes a contractor will come in and, you know, he'll think you wanted to redo all the sheetrock in a room. And then the other guy's like, oh, I just thought you wanted skim coat. It happens all the time, right? Like, it's hard to communicate a scope of work. So these 203K consultants, these scopes of work that they put together are really good for you. And that's why, again, for someone that's not experienced with this type of thing, it could really kind of make it way more approachable. It's actually, people sometimes look at a 203K consultant as a negative. When you have a good one, they're a referee. They're watching out for you. They're protecting you. They're protecting the contractor. They're protecting the bank. They're making sure the contractor gets paid for what they go in and they objectively look at what's been completed, and they tell you, okay, yeah, this is 50% complete. You're going to get billed 50. You're going to get your check for 50% of the kitchen. You know, you did all the demo. Okay, that we can cross off that line item. You'll get. There's no contention on like what's been done. You know, like homeowners, like my dad's in the construction business. How many times he got held up 10 grand because the owner didn't like the hardware that was on the kitchen and he was holding back 10 grand for the cabinets. You know what I mean? It doesn't happen with a 203K consultant. They look at everything objectively and they really referee the process.
Huh.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Keep going.
Yeah, no. So yeah, man. So just to dial back to my whole deal. So, you know, what ended up happening was we finally got to closing. Thank God. I don't know how we got there, but we did. And really it just turned into like, okay, I'm looking at this property. I'm like, oh God, we're going to have to do all this. Now, luckily I had a background in construction, so it made it easier.
Wait, so this is what you've already closed at this point.
Yeah.
So I want to take it back for a minute because I want to talk about probably the hardest part of this whole equation, I think, which is contractors.
Sure.
So like getting contractors to even show up at your house is like a crazy feat.
Yeah.
After my first house, I'm like, oh, I need to build a construction company. And I literally built it for my second house. That was it.
Yeah.
How do you get these guys to do all these estimates and stuff for you? Did you do it yourself?
So here's the thing. So obviously for us, it was a little easier because construction was my wheelhouse, right? I didn't, but everything else wasn't, right? Like I didn't know any other part of the equation. The construction was the thing but the big thing was like, I couldn't use my dad. This is conflict of interest. I wasn't allowed to do that because we actually, technically speaking, because we were living under the same roof as his business at the time, it didn't qualify. Like technically, if I probably was moved out, he would have been able to do it. We used a friend in the business, and really just were able to monitor and watch everything. A lot of the stuff got subbed anyway, so I picked subs that I liked, and we moved it that way. But to anyone just walking into it, and people that follow me, people in my community, stuff like that, there's a lot of ways to find guys that are willing to do it. I mean, here's the thing, right? Like anything else, talent hangs out with talent. Contractors are always going to be tough to get. People use it like, oh, it's hard to get them for a 203K loan. Hard to get them anywhere. Yeah. Like I don't want. People get like an idea that if anything, it's protecting you more because you have this HUD consultant on your side, and the contractor. Where else? So here's a good one. Where else, if you're a contractor, right, and you're going to do work on, again, Harry and Sally's house, they want to do a kitchen renovation, a big kitchen renovation, blow out the top, works $150,000. You ask for a deposit, you get a deposit. Do you know they're good for that $150K? Are you running a credit check on them? Are they showing you a bank statement saying that I have $150,000? You're just going on it. You're just hoping they have it, right? You write a contract, but you don't really know.
So the HUD consultant,
this money's in escrow.
Yeah.
It's guaranteed money. They just have to complete the project.
Can the HUD consultant, like, if you as the buyer are being crazy and the HUD consultant's like, yo, Joe did a great job renovating your house. He did what he was supposed to do. Like, I'm giving him his money. Does that happen? Or do you have to sign off on it in order for the money to be released?
So the way that the process works is when a draw comes, the HUD consultant comes out. They look at everything that's been done. They go down the scope of work. You and the contractor are usually there too. You go, they agree. Again, it's no BS. I mean, it's very objective. They don't work for anyone specifically. They're really just there to be objective.
Yeah, that's right? What I'm
So
saying.
they go through, they mark off everything. They go to the bank. They say, this has been done. Cut the contractor a check for this. It gets sent to the contractor. The owner signs off on the check.
Got it.
It's a double signed check, and then the contractor could put it in.
Okay, so it does have to be double endorsed.
Yeah.
Okay, so even though like I was trying to think like, is that intermediary really watching everybody in the sense that if you get a crazy homeowner, and homeowners are crazy.
Yeah, of course.
Like that's why I'm not in retail construction,
Yeah.
because I think people are crazy.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm not happy there's a pinhole that no normal person can see in that wall. I don't want
Yeah,
that
but
destroyed, at
listen,
least.
that's what the HUD consultant's going to be there and just tell them, oh, it's fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
It takes a lot of the edge off. They're literally a referee. Like it makes it so easy to just have like a mediator and just be like, this is what's happening, right? So, but to find contractors to do this, like anything else, like you find the guy, like you reverse engineer it, right? Like,
Okay.
I mean, number one, always, being in the contracting business, like referrals are always number one. Your friends, your family, everything like that. Here's the thing: the 203K is it usually always gets revealed if you use a cheap contractor and a crappy contractor. It'll always reveal itself. But a 203K is really going to reveal if a guy's like no good, right? So when guys start contesting on the paperwork, on filling out like a good line item report and just having the right, you don't want those guys anyway. Like, just no offense, you just don't want those. You want the best contractor you can afford. You want a guy that has crews, that has a back office that can handle paperwork, invoicing, stuff like that. You don't want just like a guy that's doing everything from his truck. It's just not built that way. Like, it's just not for that. But what you could do is you can always use your network. You use your professional network. You can ask the banks. Now, here's the thing. Obviously, you don't want there to be any conflict of interest, but there's no conflict. If they directly recommend someone and say, like, use this guy, obviously that's a red flag. But if you're really stuck, you can go to the bank or you can go to the HUD consultant and you can say, listen, can you give me a list, if you're willing, of every contractor in the market that you have successfully completed 203Ks on? And they'll give you the list.
Yeah.
They're not giving you any. You're asking for it, and they're not pushing you into any direction.
Yeah.
They're giving you an objective list, and you listen, sprinkle it in with other guys. Like, don't just go by like just because they know. Like, a good thing to do is always shop it out, like, and get a couple bids, so you just know where you're at. But yeah, I mean, that's really the thing is like that you can find 203K and you could just Google like 203K contractors near me. Like, there's some out there that advertise it, that they're specialized in it, but they're out there. But in the very least, like, they don't have to be. There's a common misconception. There's like a common misconception out there, like contractors need to be 203K certified. There's no such thing. Contractor just needs to be licensed, bonded, and insured. That's it. And have to have like a couple years, like a good amount of years experience, right? 2 or 3 years experience, right? So, but that's good. You should want that anyway. There's no reason why you wouldn't want a guy that has all those qualifications.
No, if anything, it's basically forcing you to do it the right way. And people try to skate it, but ultimately, if you try and skate it, like, you want to hire someone that that's not insured.
Right.
It's a disaster.
Right.
How are they with permits? Do they require that you have takeout permits for everything that you do?
So generally speaking, I would say yes.
Okay.
A lot of it's kind of
like, do they require a permit before they fund?
No.
Okay.
No, definitely not. But so the plans, permits, expediting, everything can be wrapped into the loan as well. That could be all part of the renovation cost, which is really cool.
I was just curious to know if they were like, listen, we're not going to release any reno drawers. We're not even going to fund the loan at all until you have a permit.
No.
Because if you get stopped or whatever.
They're just looking for the CO at the end.
Yeah.
Or the sign off, the inspection sign off, if you're doing something ample.
So in theory, if you wanted to like get around it and not file permits and you didn't get busted,
if you're here in New York, obviously you have to technically file a permit for everything.
For fucking
whether or not you do or don't. Like, I don't think the bank's really looking at that. I mean, I'm not the bank. I don't know for a fact. With mine, you absolutely had to pull permits. But yeah, I mean, it's not necessary or not, but generally speaking, like, they'll look for like a CO when you're done,
Huh. So talk to me about, so obviously you have a full-time gig.
Yeah.
You buy houses and flip them.
Mm-hmm.
You have rentals as well. Mm-hmm. How did you get into teaching and then basically coming up with the 203K Way, which is a dope-ass name?
Yeah, thanks, man. So
I hope you own the 203kway.com.
I do.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good.
And I just got a trademark too.
Nice.
So yeah.
Yes.
So the I was on Bigger Pockets, obviously, a lot. Like, it was kind of so dialing back, like, when I said I researched this 203K loan, nobody like had information on it. Like, it was just like crickets.
I feel like
and
even now
it's all old wives' tales. It's realtor. No offense. Again, I love realtors and lenders, but sometimes you guys put out misinformation just because you don't know it.
Do you
right?
have a TikTok?
Yeah, I'm
You
trying.
could crush it on TikTok.
You want to know? You know
with
what
this
my
shit,
name
dude.
on TikTok is?
The 203K way?
No, it's
What?
not. I got something better, but it's funny. You should actually probably have this.
What is it?
It's just called Flipping Houses. It's a good name.
That is a good name.
I know. I grabbed it because it was early. But no, yeah, I mean that's kind of I'm trying. It's like I'm like
you
the old man on TikTok.
What are you talking about? I'm on TikTok.
I know, but like
That guy,
you're
what's his name?
cool.
That guy, come on. That guy, what's his name? What is his name? I had it on my podcast too. You reposted a story of his today. What's his
Mark?
name? No, from Seattle.
Oh, Martin. No, Seattle.
Yeah, what is that guy's name? Asian gentleman. But you just reposted his story today. It's the
Yeah, I
only
probably
story you
didn't.
have.
Oh, Thatch Nguyen.
There we go,
Thatch Nguyen. Yeah.
Dude, that guy's crushing it.
No,
on
I
fucking
know they're all
TikTok,
crushing
bro.
it. I know. I don't use it enough. Like it's this year. So
I either
this has
have 3 views or 300,000
Well, that's the way
views.
TikTok's
it's
algorithm
so
is.
crazy,
Yeah,
bro.
they rewarded a lot of stuff. No, it's so like the whole branding thing started because I was on Bigger Pockets and even more misinformation on there. I can't even go on it because I get frustrated now. I used to go and try to dispel every myth, but I was spending hours a day just trying to like renounce all the bullshit information on 203K loans people are putting out there. Like people speak so confidently about shit they know nothing about. It blows my mind. But so what ended up happening was I was like posting my story and I was letting people know like, yeah, I built 150K in equity in 6 months with it, $2,000 a month cash flow on it. Like on my first deal,
That's huge.
Only put $9,500 down, right? My ROI is like a bajillion % at this point.
And the thing that's also awesome is like to your point before, which I think I don't want people to overlook, like most people flip, like I spent 3 to 4 years getting training with Carl Chavon before I ever flipped a
I know,
house.
very jealous of that.
Do you know Carl?
I remember the newspaper articles from him.
He's the man.
Yeah.
So-
I know. I never met him, but I know of him. Yeah.
But most people just like jump into it. So
Yeah.
doing this with the 203K, like to your point, it actually like makes you learn. It takes you through the process and
flipping
really
flipping a house with training wheels on.
without a doubt. I mean, amazing.
Becoming a landlord.
That
Burr
should-
method.
That should be your first book, the 203K way, flipping a house with training wheels.
Yeah, I mean it's I have an ebook right now, but
Nice.
yeah, doing a proper book is in my
This is awesome.
yeah. So yeah, man. So like what ended up happening was people were just DMing me like, how'd you do this? Can you tell me more? What do I do? What do I do? And I was just like answering. I found myself answering the same damn questions. I'm like, okay. I'm like asking my wife, I'm like, you think if I like created an Instagram, you think people will like watch it? And I'm like trying to think of a name. I'm like, how about the 203K way? Because like that was the way I got. I'm horrible. I'm not creative. I don't create.
That's a dope
bone in
name.
my. I definitely lucked out on the name. Like that was my one creative thing.
My one creative moment.
Yeah, and it stuck, and I created this account, and yeah, man, I just started posting tips on it, and like, doing the old fashioned like Instagram. Like I looked up like Gary Vee has this thing. It's like called the $1.80 method.
Okay.
And basically what it is like post a couple times a day and just look at the accounts that you like or that are related to your niche and just leave really valuable comments. And that's what I did. And organically grew to, I'm now at like 27,000 followers, organic, never paid anything for anything. And it obviously took off, and it evolved into like, hey, do you have a course? Hey, do you teach this? Do you mentor people on this? I'm like, no, I don't, but like people are willing to like pay for like some support on it. And it felt very weird to me also because like, honestly, like I kind of had a really like bad taste for a lot of mentorships that I took.
Because they're expensive and it's a bunch of bullshit.
They're expensive, but I don't mind paying if it's worth it. But it wasn't. I mean, none of it was, I felt. And I got bits and pieces, and I don't regret any of it, because there's at least one thing I learned from all of them.
Yeah, without a doubt.
But it was just like everything I hated, and I was like so I'm like, but what I did was like, I'm like, listen, if I'm gonna do this in a way where I'm gonna make sure that I'm not doing anything that I hated about it, right? Like not being like overly guru, not like setting weird expectations. Like I tell people like, listen, this is not easy. This is not an easy process. Like it's a tough process. You got to really be stringent on your deal making. You got to really you really have to like You have to have some money in the bank. You have to have a job. Like, you're still getting a bank loan. Like, this is like not like, oh, flip houses with no money, no life, no pulse, no credit, no nothing. It's like, no, this like requires some stuff. Not much. You don't need much, but you need a little bit to get started, right? And you got to have some grit and be used, especially in this market. But people are doing it because it's a really good niche and it works well for people. So it evolved into something I never really thought, and I've been lucky enough to help, dozens of people directly in the last year create hundreds of thousands, millions in equity, and just like seeing seeing a kid. My first guy I ever worked with, Shannon. Shout out to Shannon. Working here, teacher's assistant, not making a huge income, like really kind of looking for his best way. He bought a quadplex out west, lives in it for free, $1,200 a month cash flow plus. So he's living for free plus making $1,200 a month cash flow.
That's awesome.
He's just into his next 2 deals right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, and just seeing stuff like that, young kid, younger than I was when I started, and just like already a landlord.
Do you still work with him? Or he's pretty much off and running at this point?
Yeah, he's off and running at this point. Yeah.
So your training, for people to know, do you specifically focus on 203K, the process, or do you give like general real estate training as well in regards to like after repair values, construction costs?
So I say to people like, this first deal, the first deal will change your life, but it won't change your life. In the sense that like it'll change your whole understanding of money and like the way the world works, and just like your whole your mind's going to shift on what's possible when you like use leverage, use money, everything like that. But it's not going to change your life in that like this is the beginning. It's going to like you need to now leverage this and go into it. So, I tell everybody like the way I teach it is like I teach you fundamentals in real estate investing, right? Okay. Like again, I like how to get the right ARV. Like there's a lot of people that use 203K loans, but one of the big things that I want people to do when they follow with me is like you want your all-in cost to be 80% or below, right? Because what happens is that at least because then you can refinance immediately into conventional, get rid of PMI, right? When you put 3.5% down, obviously, for anybody that doesn't know, if you put less than 20% down on a mortgage, you usually are paying mortgage insurance, right? That's your your token into the pile of you being allowed to be a subprime borrower. Everyone puts it in this giant insurance fund, and for every default, these banks are protected by this insurance fund. But if you're trying to get the property to cash flow, it could be a couple extra $100 a month. Plus, usually your interest rate, they usually tack on like a point, not a point, like quarter point, half a point for being a renovation loan. It's like a little bit. Yeah,
and now PMI never drops off.
What do you mean? No, for FHA it doesn't. It doesn't. For home style it does automatically.
Even now still? At what point? At when you hit
20%.
20? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought they got rid of that.
So what I did, I refinanced into conventional immediately. So what happened was when I finished the property, I got it reappraised for 480. I was all in for 350.
Wow.
So 130,000 in equity.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I was gonna say 270. So just to touch on finish that and I'll go back to
no. So I got that done. And then I refinanced out, and then what I did from there was like, so I actually did this kind of the wrong way. I had moved out, and then I tried to get an owner occupant home equity line of credit, like tried to pretend that I was living there, and the banks caught on. So I couldn't get it. But Penn Fed, I don't know if they still do it, Pentagon Federal, they do up to 80% loan to value on a home equity line of credit for non-owner occupied. So I got the remaining, and I pulled out a big chunk of change, and that allowed me to go and buy and flip more properties because I now had like some more down payment capital, some more play money.
So basically you had and
I got rid of the PMI.
So you had a mortgage on the property, and then you leveraged
I leveraged
home equity loan.
Part of the equity. Yeah. Pentagon Federal. They do now too, like a lot of banks now, for anyone listening that's interested in doing this. So the mistake I made is that I went to get a HELOC after I had moved out. If you want to do this the right way and totally leverage this, live in you're occupying the property, this is your primary residence, get the home equity line while you're still doing it. But there's banks out there that do something called a piggyback HELOC. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of this. Piggyback HELOC is when you do a refinance, you can do a refinance plus in the same closing do an added home equity line of credit for the remainder of whatever amount you have, up to, some of these banks go up to like 95%. I've heard 100%, but I don't know what the stipulation is on that.
And Pentagon Federal did it on a property that they knew was non-owner occupied?
Yeah.
Wow.
They went up to 80%. So you got to have a little bit of equity there, but still. So they were able to do it, and so I did it. But probably if I did it the opposite way, I probably wouldn't have been able to unlock like 150,000. But I didn't. But like down the line, I started learning a little bit more about.
That's a great thing to have, just to be able to tap it if you want to.
Yeah, right. It was just there to be there.
What are the closing costs on that bad boy? Was it quick and easy
on the what?
On the HELOC.
It wasn't bad. I don't remember it being bad. I couldn't tell you. I really don't know. But I don't remember it being too bad.
I feel like I want to call them about my rental portfolio and be like, yo, man.
Oh, yeah, you can. You can for sure. I think it's like another one of those weird like nuances or like play on words, like don't call it an investment property. It has to be like
on federal.
If it's under your LLC. So this property's under my name.
Oh.
So that's a big one. I can't speak for if it's under an LLC, if you're allowed to.
I'm sure they have a product. Just a matter of like,
they're a smaller credit union, right?
Yeah.
So it's like any bank. I mean, if you go to enough banks, you'll find someone that's willing to do it.
Where are they out of?
They lend nationally, but I'm pretty sure down south somewhere.
Nice.
Like Virginia or something. But yeah, man, like it basically kicked me off, and it was kind of the beginning of the bug for me, and it just awesome. opened up the world for me, and it kind of got me. And what was funny too is like previously, I would talk to hard money lenders, and nowadays like everyone's a hard money lender, and I feel like they'll lend to anyone kind of. But back then it was like if you didn't have a house, at least one flip under your belt, they wouldn't even talk to you.
Yeah.
Or they would, and they'd be like, okay, yeah, you got to come up with 50% equity, and we're going to hit you with like a 14% interest rate, 5 points down. They just gave you like these terms where it like couldn't even work. So as soon as I got a deal under my belt and I made a deal sheet, I like showed this flip that I did and I started pitching it out. Like hard money lenders were calling me, like asking me if all of a sudden then once I started being a cash buyer, I got on all these lists and everything like that. But I went from like being the guy that like nobody wanted to talk to all of a sudden like getting this. I think one of the biggest things that I didn't expect with real estate investing is you become someone that's people are really interested in, like at a party, anything. You mentioned that you flip houses, like everyone cares about that. Like it's not like, no offense to like accountants out there, you do great work, but it's kind of thankless work. Like if someone says like, what do you do for work? And I like mention like, oh yeah, I flip houses, I own real estate. Like everyone becomes immediately very interested. And it was like the networking aspect was something I didn't really expect. And part of that was like just getting that first one under my belt, like solidified. And just all of a sudden, like people are reaching out. Private money was reaching out. Like, oh, you want to do one together? Like, it's just so funny once you get that first one.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know, but like it changed the game for me, and it's just ever since it's just been like a work up the chain and then just to continue down. And
I love it, man. This is dope, super informative, and I believe it or not, we just went like an hour.
I can't believe it. Yeah.
And it was like an educational session for me. I just sat. This is the most quiet I've ever been on a podcast in my life. I'm like, oh yeah.
Now listen, I hope I don't ramble too much. As long as it's making sense.
No, this is very valuable information,
good,
bro.
Good.
This is game changing. I mean,
it is.
You're in the space, so you probably know. You'll probably be like, oh, there's tons of guys that are talking about this. Like, bro, I do a lot of.
There aren't.
I have not heard of this at all. Like, you could blow up great. Like, it's
real estate's best kept secret. I always say.
All I see is you on TikTok with that song. You know what I'm talking about? And you're like, and you point, and it says,
"Oh shit,
the ultimate house hack." First you do this. You do this. And I see that thing get like 400 million views.
Yeah, I have a really good following, man, because I think like. Again, I think we were talking about before here, like just being genuine. Like there's so much garbage out there, and I never wanted to be that. I just want to tell people like it is. Like, again, I don't flip hundreds of houses a year. I got a couple houses, did a couple flips. Like but this is what I do know, and I've managed to help so many people do it. It's a proof of concept now, and it's like it's working for so many people, and I just want more people to learn about it, especially now in this crazy market where like people are really overpaying for a lot of properties and stuff. And like I'm telling people like, listen, you could chase properties, or you can go and just like find something that needs work. Now I know, listen, inventory is tough everywhere, but I have people that are I have a guy that just did this guy Omar. He just did one in Pittsburgh. He got his property off market, put a 203K loan on it.
That's huge.
And now, I mean, he's crushing it because he got an off-market lead. Yep. So I have people now that are, I'm doing it myself. So I think I told you, me and my wife are looking to move back. We're living in Long Island City now. We're looking to move back to Massapequa.
Okay.
I'm doing off-market marketing for like
Try and
fixer-uppers in Massapequa,
to get your own house.
saying, hey, yeah, me and my wife want to move back to the area. You have any interest in selling? And like, I'm getting leads like crazy.
Gonna do a 203K loan.
Yeah, I mean, I might have, 203K or home style, whichever one makes more sense. But again, it's the same rules, same process. Like I practice what I teach too. Like I'm going to go live in a house with me and my wife, but I'm not going to, could I go chase these houses and pay 100K over asking? Yeah, I probably could, but why would I do that? I'm going to find something that at least I could build into what I like, build some equity in the process, and have it be the way we want it to be. So it works for that. It works for a lot of different, applications, but it's severely under leveraged and underutilized just because of the hearsay that's out there about
this
it.
is super dope.
Yeah.
I like a year and a half ago, I did this thing for Leukemia Lymphoma Society where we got a whole bunch of top investors together from Long Island. I don't know if you saw it or not.
I think I did. Yeah.
We did. We were going to do it live with 2,200 people, but then COVID hit, so we ended up doing.
I remember that.
We ended up doing it as a like a Zoom type, a live stream.
Yeah.
And when I hear you talk about this, I'm like, yo, this is a very bright guy that has a very unique kind of niche in the market, and I would love to do something like that again for charity, and I'd love to have you on it.
Oh, I would love to. Absolutely.
What your knowledge? I mean, I hope you give yourself credit for it because it's awesome. Like this is really going to give a lot of people opportunity to safely get into deals and really build equity. It's a fucking win, bro.
For sure, man. And I think that was the thing. Is like when I remember like all those days on Bicker Pockets, like I feel like I'm screaming from the rooftop. I'm like, I don't have a big enough voice, and that's kind of been the thing. And
it just takes time.
Yeah, it takes time. Like this has been 2 or 3 years now. It became something, and now it's like kind of I think. Seeing how many people, even through the pandemic, how many people, I mean, dozens of people that I work with and even just follow me and just like, I'll get a DM like, hey man, because of your post, I just closed on a quadplex, made dope, whatever. And it's like, now it's like, okay, it's working for people. Like I wasn't just some fluke, it wasn't me. I just got lucky on this. Like,
no, this is the real deal. It makes sense.
This process. And I've learned to meet top 203K lenders in the country, consultants, contractors. So like it's been refining the process, seeing other people do it, seeing their nuance, and like creating a system and just seeing something replicated and it working if you follow these steps. It's been really working for people. So now at this point, it's just kind of like getting it out there and just getting more people open to the idea of like, hey, listen, you don't always need move-in ready. With a little elbow grease, you can really, and listen, you don't even want to have to be an investor, right? It could just be, again, like something where, you and your wife are looking to do something and, a lot of people are going to gut the kitchen anyway. Like, why don't you wrap it into the renovation? Why don't you pay, 3% on over 30 years on that money instead of it coming out of your pocket or using a credit card for it or something?
I love it, man. I love it. We never even introduced you. Matt Porcaro, ladies and gentlemen.
Porcaro.
Fuck. Damn.
I've been called worse, so it's okay. You can call me
Porcaro?
Porky.
Porcaro?
Yeah, Porcaro. It
means,
means
said tomato.
It means tomato.
Oh,
but it means pig farmer in Italian.
Are you 100%
It's a good way to
Italian?
remember. Not 100, no, 50. My dad's. Yeah.
Where, if people are looking for you, which they should after watching this, how do they get a hold of you? How do they find you on social media?
Yeah. So the 203K way, it's not actually an O, but we call it a 203K way. So the 203kway.com. My Instagram is really, it's how we met. It's kind of my big place where I started everything. Got a ton of content on there, a ton of free stuff on there. Starting to grow on YouTube, so you can look up the 203K way on YouTube. Got a bunch of videos on there. But yeah, those are the best places. Pretty much my handles everywhere. TikTok, like you said, I'm flipping houses
soon.
Yeah, but TikTok soon, maybe. I gotta get in the swing of it a little bit more. But yeah, I answer pretty much all comments, DMs, emails. I really just want to help everybody that I can. So
I love it, man. I appreciate you coming down. It was great to meet you.
For sure.
I got an awesome education.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you have a house that smells like cat pee, Levy,
You want to buy it?
I want to buy it. 516-777 sold. That's a wrap.